My ability to close sales, even with the prices of my services and my packages going up, has skyrocketed. In fact, last Thursday, I sold about $16.5 thousand in sales for services for my team and I to provide. I'm pretty sure at the time I had poop and spit up on me somewhere from mom life, but that felt pretty good coming back from maternity leave. So what's the secret to that? Well, there are a few things involved, but one of them is being able to send out a killer proposal. Sending a great proposal is so much more than just typing up the list of deliverables that you're going to provide to a client, putting them in a pretty PDF and hitting send on that. I still think it's a little bit of an adrenaline rush or nerve-wracking, however you want to look at it, but these are some ninja secrets I have learned along the way to weave into the process, and I'm going to show them all to you in this video. You know, around here, I love to talk about sales and communications as a copywriter and messaging strategist for creative entrepreneurs like you. When I did a video last year about my client workflow process, it took off, so I thought it may be valuable for you if I take you behind the scenes and now show you what it actually looks like to send off a proposal to those clients. So let's dive into step 1, which is creating a template to use over and over and over and over again. When I was in agency marketing, I remember the proposals that we sent out, and in fact, when I left to create my own business, I pretty much created verbatim of what I saw in my head when I looked back and closed my eyes and thought about that proposal. I created the same thing to send out to my clients. But here's the thing, the audience that I was now serving in my business was very, very different from the type of clientele that I served when I worked in corporate marketing. One of my copywriting coaches, I'm actually with some of them this week as this video dropped, asked me if I would share with our group a little bit of how I have learned to really speak to a niche. And here is something that I learned. The group of people that I was serving as a service provider with copywriting and messaging strategy as the deliverable looked completely different from the audience that I used to serve with that. So now my proposals had to look like something that new group of people would actually trust me for. Does that make sense? I like to say that the people I work with now love the pretty, which I do too. And so it helps for me to really provide a beautiful high-end client experience starting actually before the proposal itself goes out. So creating a beautiful template, like a magazine style template that they can read and learn more and more about me and what we could do together has been integral. I wanted that curated luxury feel, but it didn't feel luxury to me if I was sending over and asking my clients, click this link to open the proposal, click this link to sign the contract, click this link to actually read my welcome magazine, so on and so forth. That felt cumbersome. This is where HoneyBook, the CRM tool that I use in my business to manage all of our client processes, has been life-giving. They actually have a new proposal brochure that I use for this part of the process to create templates in. It's beautiful. Like I said, I used to create different templates and PDF all of them afterwards and then reattach them for each individual client. Well, now it's one full, cohesive, holistic experience that really showcases my brand. So that is step 1, create a template that you can use over and over and over again. Let me show you what that looks like in HoneyBook, but first I want to give you a quick bonus tip here. Someone once told me that if you are wanting to charge big, high-end prices for the service that you provide, you also need to be willing to invest that in your own business, and that is some good, tough love, amen? The year I really started perfecting my packages, I spent $11,000 in one service that I really desperately needed in my business. I saved and saved for it. I knew exactly the woman that I wanted to work with, and I tried to make that happen as quickly as I could. After I'd finally saved up enough money and got to work with her, I got to kind of see what it felt like to be a client of my own type of service. I got to go through the inquiry and proposal process and learn what it felt like to be in the shoes that I'm putting my clients in. I've only enhanced my proposal and client onboarding and offboarding experience because of that, so I want to leave you with that tip. Is there something out there that you can save up for and invest in, especially if you charge big ticket prices, and you can kind of see again what it's like to be that client, to spend that amount of money? It can be a game changer and a great lesson for you. Okay, let's bounce over to HoneyBook and see what that looks like. Here we are in HoneyBook's template section, so I'm going to go over to brochure. And this is where I can work with this new formatting that they have. So these are kind of what the old ones look like. I think I also mentioned this is where we keep a majority of different types of quote unquote brochures that we would send out, but we are talking about proposal. I also wanted to show you they have some great examples already in here. So let's look at this one. You can kind of work off these. They show you the tricks and what all they can do, how they could look for you and your business, like walking through all of this. And I love that they tell you go ahead and include things like testimonials, so on and so forth in here. But this is just a good idea of kind of what can be done. So let me show you. Let's use the calligraphy. I don't do calligraphy in the business anymore, but when I did, let me show you a little bit of what that may look like. So if I want this to look more like a high-end experience, then I want to go ahead and I made these. These are just PDF files. But can you see how a little bit more, it's more like magazine flipping through than just sending over, I don't know, sort of a PDF. So this is, again, what they used to look like. It's a little bit, again, I just think it's so much easier on the eyes. And I can move these sections around as well. So this is going to be, I don't even want it there. I may even delete that section in general. This would be more for like a welcome magazine, like when somebody initially reaches out. Again, I used to have these all outlined in this, but it's so much easier to have them as steps of the process itself. But what I do like is this section where I can add in all of the different pieces and they get to pick if they want it or not when I send it over. That's some examples of what you can do within this new brochure section of HoneyBook. Step 2 is writing the customer specific part of the proposal. I've played around with lots of different types of proposals and formatting of them, and what I've learned is that the more custom it feels, surprise, people tend to like that a little bit more. So even though I use templates like I told you, I do go back in every single time and spend a little bit of time inserting things that I know that that client has told me that they're interested in. Quick tip here, pay attention during that sales call, during that initial process of them reaching out, and start saying things back to them. That shows that you listen. When it comes to your messaging, you're super close to it, right? You've seen every bit of it from every page of your website through your whole client onboarding process and so on and so forth. But your client may not, probably hasn't, spent as much time in the weeds of your message as you have. So also during that client proposal process, be saying those things to them. Be reminding them, whether in a welcome magazine or a brochure like this, be reminding them what you're about, what your core values are, why you do certain things the way you do. I don't include any bio copy in this proposal magazine. I typically include it in the pricing guide, the documentation that they receive before they get to this far in the process. But I also send that client inquiry magazine inside HoneyBook as well. So the proposal itself copy is really about the process and the why behind each step of the process. Like I said, this is my chance to prove to them I was listening and I am worth the investment. I know a lot of service providers don't create customer specific custom proposals for every single person who reaches out. But like I said, this is why I believe so strongly in beautiful templates that are there and ready to go. And then I can spend 15 to 20 minutes customizing them each and every time I get off of a sales call. All right, cost estimate. This is step number 3, and it is really, really important. I mentioned talking your clients through the why behind booking with you, even in this stage of the process, and I hope you understand how that's important. At this phase, I like that I can list different items or services that I offer, descriptions of the service, price estimates for clients to review, so on and so forth. If you've hung around me, you've heard me talk about features and benefits before as a copywriter. We talk about them on your website, but I also think you have a great opportunity to use them here in your proposal. I would suggest here outlining during each part of this cost estimate why that step is a benefit to them. Again, you've probably included that on your services page, but it merits being said, go ahead and pull this in here. Remember, like I said, you are probably the one that spends the most time in your messaging. Your client has not, so say it again, Sam. If this is tracking so far and there's a few tips that you've picked up from here, can you pop down below and comment with what those tips are? I may go into a deep dive or help you out and answer any more questions that you have on that specific part of the workflow. I'm going to show you right now what this part of the process would look like loaded into a HoneyBook Brochure feature. Let's keep rolling with the calligraphy side of the business. Again, I don't do that anymore. I have all of my copywriting clients go through HoneyBook. It's what I use. It's how I send proposals. It's how I send everything. But I kind of want to show you on this side too, because it's pretty much the same thing. No matter what the deliverables are that you're showing, I think this is a great spot to add them in if you line item price them out. So for certain things in the copywriting side of the business, those are a little more line item. And so I can add those in here. So I'm going to go ahead, and I was just updating some of this copy. I also like that I can add in a photo here. I think that's great. I do this again on the copywriting side. I add in photos as well. I think it extends the level of branding, and also I can kind of visually show that part of the process. So let's find an example of, this is kind of RSVP card-ish, and it populates. And I would go so on and so forth all the way down, and that's how I add in different things at a price point. So again, when I send this proposal over to the client, they get to look through and check the different things that they are interested in booking. You may also want to include a rough sketch timeline when you send this along. I think that can be helpful, but I want to remind you again, you don't want to spend too much time on a custom proposal. I've definitely done it before where I spent hours on a custom proposal only to have them change the deliverables needed, and I had to go back and do it all over again. So when you send these things out, that's why I think it's so important to have your templates. Next, send over information on how they can sign and go ahead and make that first deposit payment. We're going to go into HoneyBook where I can select the contract template. I already have those loaded in, as well as the payment plan that my client wants. Again, I have those loaded in as well, so I can load both of those things in together as the next part of the proposal. A note here, you should have it somewhere in your contract, but include some sort of line about scope creep or additional deliverables or things that they might be interested in. Also, include as a line in the email that you're sending this whole proposal off with a line about how long this is good for. I can't stress that enough. I've absolutely had it happen where a potential client comes back and says, hey, I'm still interested in working together on X, Y, and Z package. And I have to say, actually, the price increased because it's been a year. Prices naturally do that. It feels a whole lot better to say that if I've already included verbiage in the email that went over to them that says something to the effect of, this is good for the next 3 business days or whatever. The next thing, make sure that you have a great follow-up plan built in. I like this HoneyBook brochure because it gives your clients an opportunity to book directly from the form, but maybe they opened it even on their phone, read it, and didn't quite book yet. I like that I have a 3-day file reminder email template that I can quickly send from my phone and check on them when I need to. One proposal sending bonus tip I have for you here. I love chit-chatting with potential clients and getting to know their business and how I may be able to serve them. So one thing that I actually added into my template is this space for me to insert any resources that I mentioned on my call. Maybe I mentioned a podcast episode or a book or a download that I have somewhere in my arsenal or whatever it is. Sometimes it feels so good to send that proposal off and also have a place reserved in the email template where I say, hey, here's some additional resources. You may book with us, you may not, but I just want to send you on your way with as many helpful tools as I can give you. Now that you're going to book more clients with the perfect proposal, let's get your onboarding process and workflow down. Watch this video right here where I share with you how I onboard new clients using a combination of HoneyBook and Trello.